Well, good to see you guys. You guys look alive and well. When I see Mr. Sharp is taking every measure.
Yes, my tablet is 6 feet away from me so that I'm practicing social distancing from you, Kudzai.
I thought about putting on a mask before I got on this phone call, but I said, you know what, you probably would take the same precaution. So I thank God somebody's is being responsible here.
Yeah, great minds think alike.
Absolutely, except not all minds act on it. You're ahead of me there.
That's true. That's true.
Well, good seeing you guys. I see you got smiles on your faces, and you haven't killed each other in this time, which is
The
a
day is
beautiful
young.
thing. There's still plenty of time for many things to happen.
Absolutely.
Oh goodness. So, Mrs. Sharp, you're not out of the woods yet, I suppose.
No. We've been through a lot together over the past 38 years, almost 39 years. So
Wow.
we're doing well.
Oh, you guys are young yet. So it's a little bit, just a few years over how many years I've lived on this earth. Just wanted to point that out. That's all young or old I am.
Rub it
You guys
in.
look terrific. No, you guys look terrific. You've got nothing to be embarrassed about. This is wisdom, years of wisdom on your part. We only have much to learn from y'all, just because. So,
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us, joining the Lifeline family in this conversation. Just to add a little context, I've been wanting to have this conversation on mental health, on emotionally spiritual. Am I messing that up? Emotionally healthy spirituality, the holistic approach to walking the Christian life. And I know you guys are experienced counselors, and you've been to many countries, and you've witnessed many things. And I think you guys will be such an asset to this conversation. So I want to jump right in. And maybe start here. And I know that I've sent you a bit of information on this topic that I want to discuss. And I want to read this verse, and you guys can chime in. This is from 3 John chapter 2. It says, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers." Just again, adding that into context, how do we prosper in crisis? It may seem almost laughable or as a joke, but what does this mean for the body?
Well, we had a discussion yesterday about this when you sent the passage and the question. And I have to confess that the word prosper bothered me.
Wow.
And
That's real.
And because of my thinking, I'm thinking, well, in a crisis, the goal is to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. Just trying to make it to the end.
That's right. And so at least from my way of thinking is that to prosper, that's what we strive for when things are normal. And things are not normal right now. I know we looked this passage up in the NIV and NLT, and the NLT, for example, says, "Dear friend, I hope all is well with you, and that you are as healthy in body as you are strong in spirit." And we both kind of like that passage, right.
Yeah.
That it takes the pressure off of prospering.
Right. To it as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. That's good. Thank God for many translations, or else we would be in so much trouble.
Yeah.
But again, adding more context to that, saying that it is well. What does it mean to say, no matter what's going right now, it's still well with my soul, it's still well with my mind? And maybe sometimes it's not well. So how do we really start to have a conversation about the reality of what people are facing? Because we can be caught in this bubble. And again, this is not to say we don't have faith, but the reality is people are frustrated. People are a little anxious. People are worried, and this is normal, right? We're human. These are all normal emotions or reactions to crisis. But how do we
Right.
have a conversation as a body of Christ to moving from that to say, hey, allowing God to work in us through the crisis? How do we have a conversation about that?
You know, I thank you for putting some context around that, but I think it's so important for us at the very beginning of a conversation like this to acknowledge how we feel.
Yeah.
And to acknowledge that our feelings in and of themselves are not bad or wrong. It's just how we feel in that moment.
Yeah.
You know, and for the other person, as a part of this conversation, as a part of the dialogue, to validate, I understand how you feel. It's okay that you feel that way.
Yeah.
You know, but if I say, you know, I'm really scared right now, and your immediate response to me is, well, in the Bible it says do not fear over 365 times, then you haven't really heard me or ministered to me at all.
Exactly. And this is why it's so important to have these conversations, because we need to be, whatever challenge we pose, there needs to be an encouragement. Yes, of course, says do not fear, because the Lord knows that you will fear. But it says, hey, I know you're afraid, but have no worries, because I am here. Right. Carrying it on from there.
And one of the things that we have to remember is this is a new situation that no one in the world has experienced before. You know, I can think back to like 9/11 when the Twin Towers were attacked, and there was a lot of unity worldwide, but there were still some countries who were anti-American. This is the first experience that I can think of that has impacted every country in the world. Doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, doesn't matter your political status, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist, a non-believer, that the virus is no respecter of persons.
That's right. And
everybody's going through this for the very first time. And so because of that, whatever you're feeling, it's okay that you're feeling that. We're going to have to go through this experience to figure out what are the healthy things and what are less healthy things. If there's a second wave of coronavirus, then we'll be more prepared. We'll have a better understanding of what to expect if there's a lockdown or state of emergency or quarantine. But this is the whole world's first time. So we're all trying to figure it out the best we can as we go along. There's a lot of information that we don't know about this virus. There's a lot of information that is revealed day by day. And some of the information that is revealed contradicts what we knew from the week before.
Exactly.
And so whatever we feel about this, it's okay that we feel that. You know, Alida and I have continued counseling with people. Even though CDF has shut down, we're still working with our adult clients anyway. And depression is really high right now. Anxiety is really high right now. Worry is really high right now. Fear is really high right now. On so many different levels and in so many areas. And this is a really unprecedented experience that everyone is going through.
Absolutely. You know, I thank you for sharing that. And, you know, obviously, as Jesus followers, one of the things that I say is, well, it's okay to feel, and then we take those feelings and we lay them at the feet of Jesus. But how are you responding then to those coming to you and saying, listen, I'm in a hole right now. What do you say? How do we as Christians be encouraging and part of the healing aids in this time?
Well, I think one of the things that's really important is to help people focus on, let's just stay in today. You know, there's an old joke that says, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is one bite at a time.
Oh, I was gonna say you don't, but
Well, you couldn't in one bite.
You couldn't, yeah.
Right. You couldn't in one bite. You couldn't.
So, we could eat an elephant one bite at a time. And situations like this are a real challenge because we can't conquer the whole thing at once.
Yeah.
We're going to have to take it in bits and pieces. And one of the things that I think that's helpful is to encourage people to stay in today. Jesus says, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Right. So here's your daily bread. It's not your weekly bread. It's not your monthly bread. It's not your quarterly bread. This is bread for today. And so we need to stay focused on, okay, today, what do I need to do? What are my relationships looking like? What are things that I can do to make a positive impact in my home? Where do we get food from today? So focus on today. And, the word danger in Japanese has two meanings to it. One is danger and the other is opportunity. And I really think, personally, I get excited about crises like this in a weird kind of way because it presents new problems to be solved. And when you have a new problem to solve, that means that requires a different kind of thinking and problem solving skills.
Right.
So for example, like the Belizean advertising company that made the COVID booths, where the doctors could take the sample from the patient without infecting them because they're in this booth. And so, that's a printing company that made adjustments in order to produce these booths. And they made 10 of them or 12 of them for the government in no time. So it's things like that excite me because there's always going to be some kind of innovation that comes out of facing adversity.
Yeah.
And so I think that's true for all of us as well. As we face these situations that we find ourselves and our families in, we're going to have to problem solve differently than what we have in the past.
That's
and
right.
we're going to have to be creative in looking to solve the problems that we have.
Yeah.
And in all of this, God is with us.
Yeah.
In all of this, God is walking right beside us. He's concerned, if we have enough beans and rice at home. He's concerned if we're afraid we're not going to be able to pay the light bill or the water bill. He's concerned, but he's present with us, and he's there to comfort us.
Right.
And all of this will pass.
That's right.
It's not going to last forever. That's right.
That's right.
And many times that's the fear that anxiety confuses us with, that we think that where we're at right now, it's always going to be that way. But that's not true, that it will pass and we'll make it through this, some in better shape than others.
That's
but
right.
God is with us through the entire time. He's there to provide and comfort and direct us. We still can have community, even though it's virtual and electronic, but that's better than not at all.
Yeah.
And we're going to get through this okay. And God is present with us during this time.
Yeah, that's right.
I think one of the things that's important to remember is that the information that we take in, one of the things that when I'm working with a client, the information that we're taking in on a daily basis has an impact on our spiritual well-being, on our emotional well-being. And if we stay stressed out for too long, that can have an impact on our physical well-being. If people are strictly depending on the message on Sunday to get them through the full week, that's not enough. You know what I mean? To make it through a full week spiritually. And we need to be responsible to eat and drink for ourselves. And we can, Jesus says he is the living water. He is the bread. We need to get that milk from the word. We need to get that meat from the word. So we have to spend time listening to worship music, doing more than just reading, you know, through one time on your Bible app, you know, that morning devotional that you do, and then go on with your day. You may need to sit down and read again. You may need to keep worship music playing in your home so that you've got something positive coming in. You may need to stop scrolling on social media, stop reading every news article. And even if you have to, you know, don't listen every single time you get that notification that the press office is going live. You know, you may need to back off of some of those things so that you can protect your peace, your emotional stability.
Yeah, that's good. You know, even as you both share this, in crisis, an opportunity to, you know, bring new solutions and live life like you haven't lived before, but also sensing God is also revealing himself in a way that we haven't experienced him outside of the crisis. You know, I've heard so many testimonies of God's provision, of how God has, you know, turned around what devotion time and worship time means for a family. You know, and I was just sharing with our body a couple of weeks ago, you know, it's not just about getting to the end. God is concerned about the whole person being transformed through the process. You know, and I think that's an important thing to remember. This is my daily bread today. If I can learn to trust God for what he can provide for me today, for who he is today, you know, then I can live like that each day, trusting in him. You know, not because I have a fat bank account. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's such a good point.
I think that's part of the opportunity that all of us have in front of us as we're locked up and can't work and, you know, can't see friends and family and go to church and that kind of thing. Because, you know, when you think of a chain, when you pull on a chain, the chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Wherever that link is weak is going to be a breaking point. And so as all of us are cooped up and off our regular routine and out of our regular patterns and things are really different, our weakest areas will be shown to us.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that God can use this difficult time to open our eyes to let us see where we need to grow the most.
Right. That's right.
And whether that's in communication with my spouse or my family, because, you know, we're here all the time and we only got so much space in our place, and, you know, will you go away means you're 10 feet away instead of 2 feet away. May not be enough space right now. So, you know, maybe it exposes that we need to spend more time in the Word. Maybe it exposes that I'm not taking care of my body well enough, so I need to exercise. However, I can do that during these times. So our weakest areas will be revealed during the pressure and stress of this, and we need to use that as an opportunity and a gift in order to become more Christ-like and to get healthier.
Absolutely. And speaking about that, looking at what we can work on, you know, I think about the pressure that the leaders of, you know, of our nation, of different companies and organizations are under. Some have had to make pay cuts. Some have had to just, you know, decide who to let go. You know, let's talk about that a little bit, because, you know, sitting in our living rooms, we can become angry and frustrated at the process and the decisions that our leaders are making during this time. You know, let's try and get into the minds of those of the Honorable Dean Barrow. You know, what could be going on in his mind right now? We may take it for granted that he's sleeping at night, right? But maybe let's talk about that a little bit. You know, what could the leaders be possibly dealing with right now?
You know, so often when we're trying to make decisions, we are looking at the needs of our own little family, you know, of the people that are in our home right this very minute. I serve on the board for a private Christian school here in the country. When I'm looking at decisions for the board, I have to look at what's going to benefit everybody, what's going to be best for a larger group of people, and not just, you know, how do I feel about voting on this? You know, and the prime minister is having to make decisions that are affecting everyone across this country. It's not just his family. It's not just people in his party. What he decides has an impact on every single person in this country. And that's a huge weight. That's a huge responsibility. So we do need to pray for him. We do need to pray that he has wisdom, that he has clarity, that he's given insight, because that's a heavy weight to carry.
Yeah.
And part of leadership, you know this, Kudzai, is that no matter what you choose, there's always going to be people who are upset about it.
Unfortunately.
That's
Unfortunately.
true for us.
Well, listen up, people. Listen up, people. This is a true thing. I think it's great perspective to say we can make a decision that we say, hey, this is gonna benefit so and so. And some people will come in and say, no, So let's talk about that a little bit, considering the bigger picture. And some people may be frustrated that they can't go to the river. Some people can be frustrated that, well, we can't see our family. But in the bigger picture, right, we're concerned about where this pandemic might end up, spreading into every home in Belize, which God knows we're not ready for.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges in facing the coronavirus is it's brand new. Very little information is known about it. We're learning as we go along. Everybody's doing the best they can, and I'm talking about leaders as well.
That's right.
And a choice that you make now may look really bad in 3 weeks or 3 months, but the choice that you made now, we do that with the best intention, with the best heart, and with the best information we have at hand.
That's right.
And it's not really beneficial to let that 3 months go by and look back and say, well, you should have chosen this or you should have chosen that. It's like, well, we didn't have that information then. So we made the best choice we could at the time.
What we had, yeah.
And there's I'll say it again, Kudzai, there's always going to be people who are going to criticize and not be happy about it. And that's just part of life. So
yeah, and this is where we have to really focus on how do we move from being just critics to healing aids, seeing what is my role, in this conversation. Ms. Alida, you wanted to say something just now?
Well, yeah, I think it's always important to remember that even on a small scale, whatever choice I make impacts somebody else. I think it's important to always remember that if yes, it would be great to go to the river. It's really hot. That'd be a good place to cool down. But if I go to the river and there's somebody else at the river who maybe, I pass on the virus to that person and they're going home and they've got an older grandmother or somebody else in their home, and then that person gets the virus. And it's all because I wanted to go to the river, and we need to think about how our choices, how our decisions impact other people, especially as believers. We're not supposed to look at our own interests first. We are supposed to consider the interests of others and do what's best for the body.
Yeah, that's right. Speaking about our own interests, I see most people are locked up with their families, which I'm pretty sure there've been plenty of annoyances, plenty of arguments or deep conversations. Many times my wife and I had to, just sit down and say, okay, how do we work this out? We're at a place where, well, I can't just leave and go for the next 8 hours and then come back and then things would have cooled down. Just really had to figure out ways how to be creative and really love on each other in difficult situations. So how, what does that look like? Maybe you could share a little bit of what's going on in your home. Sorry to put you on the spot, but.
Well, I don't know what you were gonna say, but when Tom and I left, we've lived outside of the U.S., our passport country, for 15 years. And when we first left the U.S., we lived in Russia, and we worked together. We went to school together. We rode public transport to get to school and work and everything together. We went to church together. We faced a lot of together.
That's a lot of together.
A lot of together back then. You know, and we had to learn to be respectful if Tom chose to go into another room, or if I chose to go into another room, not to take offense at that, not to take it personally, you know, because each one of us and we had 2 teenagers with us at the same time.
Wow.
And we would often come home from someplace and everybody would go to a separate room for at least an hour or so, you know, just to get some time to decompress.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have that level of respect for one another, to realize that everybody needs some space to think their own thoughts, you know?
That's right. That's right.
Well, I'm going to say that I'm king of the quarantine. That I was made.
We've been looking for you.
Yes, because you know there's a sign at Disneyland that says happiest place on earth.
Yeah.
That's not true.
No?
For me, happiest place on earth is my home.
Wow.
I like my home. I like being in my home. I stay in my home. I don't like leaving the house. So Sunday we go to church, maybe go out to eat, go to the store.
Normally. Not under quarantine.
Tuesday and Wednesday I'm at the office at CDF, and that may be the only 3 times I go out during the week because I am at home. And while Alida's out doing all her stuff, I crank up the music and I paint, and I love being at home.
Wow. You're a different breed.
I am a different breed.
And if he goes shopping, which that is something that you would normally do, he likes being able to leave, go get what he wants, and come right back home. And in this quarantine time, you can't do that right now because lines are a little longer, you know.
Exactly.
So if anybody's going to win quarantine or lockdown, it's going to be me because God designed me just for this. So
they might have a trophy ceremony after this.
And I know that that's not the case for most people.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't think we had a whole lot of adjustment to make. You know, Alida's at home a lot more, so that means, you know,
you don't have your music.
I don't have my music cranking. You know, and I'm in a funk right now, not painting because I feel a lot of heaviness from all the stuff that's going on, you know, around the world, and so I haven't had a desire to paint. And Alida's still in school. She's, you know, finishing up her bachelor's online. So some days are library days, which means that there's no talking in the house.
Talking in the house. No loud radios.
No. So you know, we don't talk because unless she's on a study break or whatever. But it really, for us, I think, has been a real minimal amount of adjustments.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably cooking a lot more because we are, you know, this impacts everybody financially, of course. And so we're trying to conserve as much as we can. And so we aren't ordering food in and obviously we're not going to any restaurants right now. So I'm having to cook a lot more, which makes Tom happy.
Yeah.
So for us, you know, it's just the 2 of us in the house. And like Tom said, we haven't had to make a lot of adjustments. I'm still able to work out. I think the only thing that's really changed is like how late we stay up and how early we get up in the morning.
That's a real trip for me that you know, normally when you have to work, you know, you set the alarm and it wakes you up and, you know, it creates barriers to sleeping. And then, you know, you have to go to bed, you know, a certain time because you have to get up the next morning. And with all that thrown out the window, I'm confused. My sleep schedule is turned upside down. You know, I'll go to sleep. I think last night I was in bed early. I think it's 2:30 when I turned off the light. And, you know, and then I'll wake up and Alida will say, well, you know, it's 10 o'clock in the morning or it's noon or it's 1 o'clock.
Oh, wow. You're living the life.
I am, and I don't even know what day it is anymore.
I believe,
what, you know, the quarantine is so different for us. You know, we're at a different stage of life. We have adult children, we have grandchildren. So, and they don't live here. You know, our family is spread out in 3 different countries. So I know for those people with small children at home,
Yeah.
some of your day has not changed. Some of it's intensified.
Yeah.
You know, you've got
That's
school-age children that are home all day, and you're not used to that for longer than the summer break or the Easter holiday or whatever it is. So I know that there are moms and dads, maybe a lot of moms across this country who are really struggling with how their workload has increased.
That's right. And yeah, let's shed some light and maybe hopefully attempt to jab at some solutions at how we can alleviate in the home of how husbands can be supporting of their wives, and wives can be supportive of their children, and creating boundaries, healthy boundaries. You know, because I know some parents are up to here. We have a little 1-year-old. He's up early in the morning, and sometimes he's woken up a couple of times in the middle of the night. So by the time it's breakfast time, I mean, like, we're feeling like, well, now we have to make it through a whole day. That's the reality. And we just have one child. Imagine there's families with 2, 3 at different ages. You know, let's talk about solutions and boundaries and how we can support each other in this time to support healthy mental states.
You know, boundaries are so important for children.
Yeah.
They need those guidelines. It creates safety. It helps them feel loved and cared for. They have to have those boundaries in place. No has to mean no. It can't mean if I keep asking, mommy or daddy's going to change their mind.
Right.
You know, so, and it doesn't have to be done in a mean way. You just need to mean what you say.
Right.
You know? And I think for little ones, and I homeschooled our kids, plus I ran a home daycare business. So I was used to having several children in my home and trying to adapt everybody's schedule. And so one of the things that was important to me was not trying to, okay, we're going to eat breakfast at 8:30. We're going to eat lunch at noon. We're going to eat dinner at 5. It's not schedule at this point in time. It's routine. We're going to eat breakfast. Then we're going to get dressed. Then you can play. Or, you know, if you've got schoolwork to do, we're going to get up. We're going to eat. We're going to get dressed, and you're going to get your schoolwork done, and then you can play. Whatever the routine is, stick to the routine. Because that is so healthy and helpful for children. If they know what's coming next, then they don't have that anxiety about, you know, if it feels like I've got to spend all day doing schoolwork and I'm never going to get to play, or I'm, you know, they're feeling hungry and when are we going to eat? You know, so if there's a snack time that needs to come in the middle of there somewhere, just making sure that the kids have a routine and you stick to it is important. And it's okay if the routine is one thing Monday through Friday and it's something different Saturday and Sunday. They'll get used to that as well.
Yeah.
But having that routine, having those boundaries in place is vital for small children.
Yeah.
And I would encourage parents to not feel pressure about homeschooling or you know, schooling the children. That if as a parent you've also taken on the role as teacher, and you need a mental health day, then you know what? Today we're going to stay in our PJs, and you know, unless you pack the kids up and send them next door to the neighbor and tell them the substitute teachers over there, or it's a student exchange program. You know, there's going to have to be times when parents take a break as well.
That's right.
And that's okay. And not all learning is book learning.
Yeah.
You know, that maybe they need to spend time with dad as he changes the oil in the car.
Yeah.
Or, you know, as he cuts the lawn, or as he plants flowers, or, you know, whatever. That can be educational as well.
Yeah. I really do believe that can be really healthy, because sometimes we put this additional pressure on ourselves just to be on time and to be on schedule, and we're just living in a funny time where you can wake up and your mind is not in the same state that it was yesterday. You know, your threshold is like 3 weeks. Week 4, I can't bear it. I have to be out. I have to talk to somebody else. So I think that is so important that we consider that, again, considering the whole person, being holistic, Jesus wants us to come to him as we are, and saying, David made some crazy prayers, about his enemies. It's like, Jesus, you're gonna let me be embarrassed by my enemies? Look what they're saying about me. Look at what they're doing. He was angry or frustrated, but he brought it and just said, listen, this is how I'm feeling today. Would you deal with me and help me? I know it may not be the same solution, and I think that's so important to discuss. Yeah.
And I think too that if it's a couple with kids, the couple really needs to talk to each other.
Yeah.
That if you need space, I need space for a couple hours, or I can't do the household stuff today. I need your help, or let's take a break, or what have you. Talk to each other and let each other know what you need, and reassure that we'll get through this. We're on the same team. We have the same goals. We're going the same direction. I'll support you however I can. You support me however I can. That we need to be able to share with each other what we need, and when we can't do certain things, that's okay, because all of us have limitations.
Yeah.
And like you started off at the beginning of our conversation, we talked about how important it was to laugh. That we all need those breaks. And it may be something fun and a little hilarious to take some time throughout the day and maybe have, I know our son and his children do this. They have dance parties, when his kids start to act up or get a little, because they're trying to blow off energy. And he's got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And his wife is an essential worker, so she's out of the house quite a bit. So daddy's home with the kids quite a bit. And he puts on some music and just everybody dances, and we get the benefit of seeing these cute little videos. But it's also a way that it's something that helps the kids calm down. It helps them work out their energy. So there may be some times when you need to incorporate some new things into your day, do some things with the kids you've never done before. If you're that kind of mom or dad, whoever's cooking. In my house growing up, it was my father. For most of us, though, it's probably the mom that does all the cooking. And sometimes they don't want anybody in the kitchen with them. This might be the time to say, you clean off the rice, you sort the beans, you do this, bring the kids into it with you so they can learn how to do some of these things.
Absolutely.
We're all going to be together, cooped up for a little while. And so this is going to change how our family day looks.
Yeah. And speaking about being together, I don't want us to also overlook those who may be alone. I just realized, I think we speak a lot about families, and this is helpful for those who have families, to know that, hey, they're not alone, to know that some of those emotions that they go through are normal. But also, what about those people who are alone, who are single, maybe even going through depression right now, but they just don't have somebody that they're waking up next to? How about that? Did you guys offer some insight, some perspective?
Well, I think that's where people can get creative with visiting others electronically. Where you can text somebody and say, I just need to, like you said, I need to have an adult conversation or talk with another grown-up for a while. So can we Skype or can we FaceTime? And we can't hug each other, but we can certainly dialogue and see each other, and that's even more beneficial than a phone call. And so I think we can be creative and use the technology in order to stay in touch.
Yeah.
And one of the things I want to backtrack a little bit about, at the house with having everybody together, if it is more than just one person, is that it's okay to structure in 30 minutes or an hour of quiet time. Where we're gonna turn off the TV. We're gonna get away from the tablets. If you want to read a book, you can. I want you to lay down. You don't have to go to sleep, but just for an hour, we just need some quiet, because we just need to reset. We need to rest, because the house gets really loud and noisy with so many people in it, and we can't go out. And so if that's something that the family needs, or as a couple you need to incorporate, feel free to do that.
Yeah.
I know that I think there's going to be high levels of trauma as a result of going through this coronavirus.
Yeah.
You know, because it's an unseen enemy. It's unknown. It has a lot of people feeling really fearful and really afraid and worried. You know, oh, if I shake hands with somebody or touch something that someone else has touched, you know, am I going to get sick and these sort of things. And so one of the things that we teach when working with people who've been traumatized is that the brain, although it's an incredible thing, the brain cannot be worried and feeling peaceful at the same time. And so if we're worried, or if we're anxious, or we're nervous or fearful, there are things that we can do to help quiet ourselves and to help us stay in today.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I teach my clients to do, and we do it every session, it's an exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what it does is it helps to calm the brain that is thinking about tomorrow, or thinking about next week, or is already, 6 months from now trying to figure out things. And it helps the brain stay present in the here and now. And that helps to shift from feeling anxious and worried into feeling peaceful and calm. And so I have people put their feet on the ground. I have them put their hands on their knees. And then I ask them, tell me 5 things that you can see right now. And so they'll say, the fan, the couch, the window, I see you, I see the doorknob, okay? Now tell me 4 things that you could touch if you reach. Well, I could touch the table, my chair, I could touch, my chin, and I can touch the cabinet, right? Then tell me 3 things that you can smell. So then they tell me 3 things they can smell. 2 things that you can hear, and 1 thing that you can smell. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. 1 thing that you can taste. And so,
that's what it is.
So it gets the person grounded in the here and now, instead of focusing on what's going to happen next week. It doesn't matter what 5 things that if there's senses, you could do it with colors. Tell me 5 things that you see right now that are blue, 4 things that are red, 3 things that are green, 2 things that are yellow, 1 thing that's brown.
Yeah.
The point is to help shift the brain from being focused on what may or may not happen down the road, and being centered and grounded right in the here and now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when Jesus said, look at the birds. They don't worry about tomorrow.
Yeah.
They don't worry about their food, and somehow God provides for them. And the same is true for us. How much more valuable are we than a bird or a sparrow?
Yeah.
That God cares even more for us than he does for the birds. And so we need to stay focused. And if we're anxious or uptight, we can do that and invite Jesus into the process to send me your presence. I really need the comfort and the calm of the Holy Spirit right now.
Yeah.
So anything like that can be beneficial as well.
And that's something good for, if you are by yourself in the home, to be able to shift your focus, to shift what you're telling your brain, and do something like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise Tom talked about, or a breath prayer, where you breathe in your hope, breathe out is my anchor. Whatever little prayer you want to put together, breathe in 1 phrase, breathe out the next phrase. That also helps reset the brain as well. I think it's important if you're home alone, and trapped with all your thoughts, you're thinking these people are having such a great time, but why isn't that person thinking about me? Why hasn't Pastor Kudzai checked up on me? I think it's important to reach out, to remember that we are all dealing with this crisis in different ways. And so just because somebody's a pastor or a counselor or whatever doesn't mean that they're handling it better than you, and that everything is wonderful in their home. Reach out and ask questions. I need somebody to check in on me. Would you mind, just even driving by my house and letting me wave at you so I can see your face or whatever. You know, we need to make our needs known. So if you're stuck at home all by yourself, make your needs known. Let people know what it is you need. You know, we are still able to get out early in the morning. You can go for a walk. And I've seen that there are, I saw this the other day when I was out, there were some friends, they each were at the end of their street and they were able to talk to one another, you know, still keeping that social distance, but that was a way to at least see your friend, you know. I talked to my neighbor over the fence. She and I talked for about half an hour. We've never really had a conversation that long before. But I saw her outside hanging up clothes. I went over to talk and, you know, she stopped what she was doing and we had a conversation. So I think it's important that we reach out, you know, if we feel like we need somebody to talk to or need to see another person because we've been in the house by ourselves. We just need to make our needs known.
I think that I'm so glad that you guys touched on that. It's so important, you know, because even as Jesus was traveling through different places, some people would shout, "Have mercy on me," you know, and I think it's so important to know that. Hey, so if Jesus knew all about me, why didn't he just come straight to me? I think it's so important for us to be able to shout as mature and growing Christians to start and say, "Hey, I need help." You know, because people are not intentionally neglecting you. I think, like you said, people are trying the best that they can with what they have, and sometimes sometimes people can be missed through the cracks. Not that they're unimportant, but genuine mistakes. But I think that's such an important point to make. That it's important that we can shout for help. It's important, That's good. You know, I thought that this conversation was going to last only for about 40 minutes. I don't know. I thought I had a timer here, but I don't have one. So I'm not sure how we're doing on time.
It's after 2.
I think it's been about 40 minutes.
It's been about 40 minutes, but hey, where do people have to go anyway, right? So
That's right.
We might as well just stay here and talk about what we need to talk about, and people can go, you can walk to the bathroom, go get some coffee and continue on in the conversation. And I think that there's so many layers of this conversation that we need to touch on, because we can get so accustomed to dealing with things the way we've always dealt with. You know, even we speak about this a lot as men. Maybe we may not be, very verbal processes. You know, we're not good at expressing exactly how we feel. This may not be true for all men, of course. And how do we now begin to embrace new ways of adapting and growing and seeking for help and seeking for Jesus in this time? And maybe that's my question. How do we start? How do we incorporate such thinking, such openness in our mind and our heart, so we can embrace times which are different for us?
Well, I think, again, this is an opportunity for us to evaluate our lives. We've got a lot of time to think, to journal, to process, to get feedback from other people, and evaluate what of how life was before World War C. And what of those?
You just make that up.
Yeah, he did.
You can use it if you want.
Thank you. I think you can catch on very quickly.
All right. And what of my life before WWC that I want to incorporate after it's done? But what do I want to change? What of my life before we had this wasn't working, or wasn't healthy for me, or wasn't beneficial, or didn't help my spirit grow, or my relationship grow, or my heart grow? What are things that I want to leave behind and not return to? And we all have that opportunity to make some dynamic changes in our lives that hopefully none of us will be quite the same when we're through. And that includes having to face some losses. because I don't think we're going to go back to what we had before. You know, there are some people that have gotten sick, that have passed away.
Mm.
So even when we're done with this, we may not have the same structure to our family or our friends.
Mm.
There may be some practices that we did before that are going to have to change. Like, you know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, will restaurants have to allow for bigger spacing, you know, when you go to the restaurant, or will classrooms at schools have less students in them, you know, and not so close together? And so, you know, there's going to be some losses. There's going to be some changes that we don't go back to how things were before. And, you know, those losses will need to be dealt with, you know, by each person that experiences them.
Yeah.
You know, because I think for men, I know I talked a little bit earlier about how moms might have a lot more responsibility in the home now than what they've had before. But for men, I think there's also been a shift in their responsibilities. I know that I've heard a lot of pastors saying that, you know, this is a time to do those family devotions. Well, there may be men that have never really led a family devotion before, and this is a new thing, you know, and there may be some concerns about being able to provide for your family financially, and if you know, if you're a taxi driver and you're used to making that money every day, and now all of a sudden you can't, you know, the men are having to face some things that they haven't had to face before. And I think this is a good opportunity for men to acknowledge some of those feelings that they have. I know each time a major financial thing has happened in our lives, I know it's impacted Tom in a different way.
Okay, hey, welcome back. Sorry, I think we had a disruption in our signal there, but we were discussing man and some adjustment that he had to make. I think we missed the end of that. Could you just pick it up from wherever we got disconnected and continue from there, please?
Do you remember where we were when we got disconnected?
You were talking.
I was talking?
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's important for men to recognize that so many things may be different right now, whether it's spiritually or financially. You know, there may be men who are having to lead devotions for the first time. Or there may be men who are used to making money every day and they can't do that right now. And I was saying that, like, when Tom and I bought our first house, it impacted him in a different way than it impacted me. He took on that stress in such a different way because he felt responsible. You know, and I think it's important for men to be okay with telling another man or telling their spouse that they're struggling right now, that they need, you know, can you listen to me talk through this? And I know a lot of times when men talk, they immediately go into problem solving mode when they're listening to somebody else speak. So they may not necessarily need you to help them figure out the problem. They may just need an opportunity to talk through it themselves. So I think it's important that we give men safe spaces to talk. And, you know, I grew up with 4 brothers, been married long time, raised sons. And I know people think that, that that men are so brave that they don't struggle with this particular issue, but it's very, very difficult for a man to open up and talk if he doesn't feel safe.
That's right.
So if he feels like his wife or partner or whoever is in his life is going to criticize what he has to say or judge what he has to say or have an immediate reaction to what he has to say, that man is going to stay quiet. So you have to give the men in your life enough time and enough safety and enough love so that they can open up and share their hearts with you.
It's a good word. That's a good word. And you know, I'm gonna look to wind down this conversation, which I'm thinking there needs to be a part two, because so much things that we're speaking about are so important in what's going on in the home. And I think that people have had a real opportunity to not only work on themselves, but to help the people that we have been so blessed to have in our lives to grow, to be able to impart life, in a different way, maybe perhaps in a way we haven't been accustomed to. But I want us to really leave some encouragement. We know people are really facing difficult times. It's uncertain, but we trust that the Lord will work every situation for our good. I do believe that with all my heart. But how can we encourage those who are feeling lonely, depressed, who feel like, who have lost their jobs right now, whose mind can't really connect? They know God, they want to trust God, but they just are saying, God, I don't know. How can we encourage them today?
Do you have? Okay. I think that's where some scripture memorization comes in handy, or taking some time to meditate on God's word, but remembering things like, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. Yeah. That's a verse that has helped me. Remembering, I remember before I had surgery, I was telling myself, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Just telling myself, encouraging myself with scripture was so important to me at different points in time. And you can do that for yourself. You can do that for others in your home. Like I said, this is a time where we have to limit all those outside sources that are feeding the depression or the anxiety or whatever it is we're feeling. Let's put on some worship music and let that play softly in the background throughout the house. Those kinds of things can be very helpful in encouraging yourself or feeling emotionally or spiritually strong, because God is faithful. He has always been faithful. He will always be faithful. When I think of some of the most trying things that we've been through, we've had 2 children that were stillborn. We've moved internationally and had all of our belongings stolen from us. We've had so many different things along the way in our lives, and God has been faithful every step of the way. When Tom was in seminary, he was trying to work, and I was home with 2 kids. Yeah. We only had about $25 a week to buy food with. I had to get real creative. There was a lot of anxiety around that time. God brought us through that. And when I look back on the things that God's brought us through, it gives me confidence to know that he's going to help me again, because he's not going to just abandon me. He goes before me, he goes behind me, he's wrapped around me. He is always there for me. Yeah.
Wow. That's so good. And and we cannot lose hope. And this is one thing where even when we sing "Spirit Lead Me," where my trust is without borders, this is where our trust is without borders. This is where everything that we have never seen or experienced in our life has come to play. And this is where God again is shaping us. And I really believe that the church is being shaped in a new way. We're now doing church without the building. Because church starts at home. We're now yes, and Jesus is redefining what it means to be the body of Christ, and for us to be ministers as well where we are. So yes, anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It was such a pleasure to have y'all. It's a real blessing to have you with us this afternoon. Did I say afternoon? Yeah, it's our afternoon. It's all right.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much. We respect and support and love you very much, Kudzai and LifeNet, and keep going.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys are a huge blessing. Thank you for the work that you're doing and the blessing that you are to many believers in homes as well. We hope to continue this conversation, and we'll be in touch very soon. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. All right. God bless.
Blessings. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.